Thank you for joining us. This is the Kel and Coach Show. Once again, I'm Kel Dansby. This is Coach Conrad. And we are broadcasting on JCC's online website, and that's ecavradio.com. You can catch us on there. This broadcast every Friday. You can catch us online on the JCCC Athletics YouTube page. All our episodes are there. Thank you guys for joining us. Coach, we're going to start off recapping some of the games. We just had some tough games. We'll talk about the last game first. We'll go with Coffeyville. Coffeyville came in the other night, and like we were talking about pre-show, they really tried to test you guys and run with you. It's a different kind of scheme, but it looks like you guys executed and found your offense. How were you guys able to do that?
Well, it all starts on the defensive end. I thought we guarded, extremely well. I thought we did a nice job with the scouting report, with following the plan. I just thought we defended. We got clean stops, rebounded the ball, got clean stops, and got out and run. I think we can run on anybody, but it all starts with how you guard. I thought we were really turned up in that game. I mean, and I thought our whole group was really just had a good edge to them. Our team's getting better too. I mean, I think we're making some improvements. Kids are starting to find themselves. Everybody's roles are kind of becoming defined, becoming very clear, and I think what you're seeing is a team that's starting to approach, starting to get where we want them to go.
During that game, to begin the game, they kind of went back to a 2-3 zone. They picked up at half court, sunk into a 2-3 zone. And I noticed that you had Amy Briggs on the court a lot during the first half. Was that a conscious decision? Is she like one of your best zone breaker options?
Well, I mean, I think Amy's a good option no matter what. But, when teams are playing zone, two things that make playing zone very difficult. If you got kids that can pass the ball, and kids that can shoot the ball. Those are two things. You get a bunch of kids that can pass it and shoot it, that's not a very good team to zone, and so, when we talk about when we play zone, we don't play a lot of zone. We really haven't played any zone at all this year, but when we do, that's always what I'm looking for is do they have good passers and shooters? And teams that have good passers and shooters, we wouldn't, we'd never even think about playing zone against. And Amy does those two things very well. She passes it, can make shots. I don't know if it probably was a little bit conscious. When we start seeing a lot of zone, I do run her out there quite a bit. So,
yeah, she had a great game that night. Also, down low, Polly Harrington during the game, it really looked like she was the focal point of the offense early. Get the ball down low, try to open up shots, and her, Amisha Kearney, really attacked the paint. We saw a lot of isolations, really, kind of clear outs for them on the backside of the offense, kind of let them get to work. Did you see a definite advantage versus Coffeyville down low?
Well, I think there's an advantage when you talk about Polly. I just think she's very difficult to guard. She's got tremendous skill. She's very quick for a kid that size. So anytime we can isolate her, we want to do it. I think we've got to make an effort to find her a little more. I don't think she probably touches it enough in our offense. And Amisha's the same way. Amisha's in ISO situations with Amisha, she's very difficult to handle. We just took some matchups we thought were advantageous to us and kind of went to work on them.
Yeah, it's nice to see you guys get back up into the high-scoring numbers in the 90s again after a couple games into the 60s. I think you guys did really well on offense. Two players I want to talk about really quick are two players I know we haven't focused on yet here, but they're kind of my two favorite players so far on the team. One, we'll start off down low, Kylie Kooper. The most hustle points I have seen in a basketball game. She's everywhere. It doesn't seem like she needs plays run for her. She's grabbing rebounds, blocking shots. When she comes off the bench, I notice a definite spark. What growth have you seen this year in her so far?
Well, she's having a good year. I think if you really go back and study film and you start charting possessions and start looking at the efficiency of our team. You're right. Kylie's a big difference maker. She's got great energy. She's a tremendous offensive rebounder. She's big. She's strong. She's active. She does bring a big spark. She plays hard. You talk about her growth. I mean, this is a kid that came in last year and she played behind Liz Smith, and it was kind of a let's get Kylie in the game and for depth reasons, and let's survive the minutes she's in the game. I mean, that's just the truth. And she's become a player now that Kylie could play the whole game if we needed to, and we'd have a good basketball team on the floor. So her development is pretty cool. It's really neat to see her, her development. Coach Skockle works with our post players and worked a ton with her. Deserves a lot of credit for that, and Kylie does too. Kylie's put the work in. She had a great off season. She's always in the gym working. She's going to be big down the stretch. We're going to need Kylie to be a force and really be a factor and continue to give us that depth at that 5 spot.
Definitely. It's always good to see when you have someone coming off the bench that can guard in the low post and there's no drop-off whatsoever. She doesn't foul when they bring the ball in. It's so disciplined. You can't tell the difference between your first and second team post defense at all. You don't give up easy shots in the paint with either of them. The other player I want to talk about really quick, number 10, Breanna Lewis. Every time I watch the game, she's on a different part of the floor. She's doing something different. The other day, I saw her grab a defensive rebound, push it up coast to coast by herself, drove into the lane, and kicked it out to the three-point line. She handles the ball. She defends almost every position that I can see. How is she so versatile in the offense?
Well, that's why Bree's a big-time player. I mean, that's why she was, went to Kansas State out of high school. It's why she's going to go back to that level next year. She is a 6-foot kid that has tremendous skills. I was really happy to see Bree play like that because, in my opinion, down the stretch here, I think what you see in conference play at all levels, you see special players start doing special things,
yep.
and they start having special nights. And Bree needs to be like that every night. And when she's attacking, it was kind of interesting. Kat Brisbane was sick, had some flu symptoms, and gutted it out and got us about 10, 11 minutes. And it was really kind of interesting. Bree was kind of forced into a situation where she played more minutes than maybe any of us are comfortable with from just a fatigue standpoint. And it was really interesting to see how she reacted to being able to be on the floor about 32 minutes a game. I thought she really got in the flow and did some nice things. So we need that from Bree. I mean, I think Bree is one of our best players. I think she's one of the best players in our league. And she needs to step up. We go on the road and play at Indy Saturday. Bree needs to come ready to play for sure.
Yeah, that's interesting that you say that because to me it seems as though she got better over time in that game. Her second half was better than her first, so fatigue, it looks like, wasn't even a factor. I didn't even notice she had played that many minutes. To touch on one last thing from that game, minutes, something I haven't seen in other games. Point guard Tanchelle Hollingsworth usually runs the offense. She does a great job pressuring on the defensive end. She picks up full court every play. Her motor is nonstop. But last game, she actually didn't play as many minutes. Number 13, Kelsey Knox came off of the bench. One of the first times I saw her, she added a spark as well. Is that another layer of added depth that you guys are adding going later in the season?
Well, it is. And Kelsey's been out. She broke her finger in early December and has been out a bunch. But Kelsey, she's a spark plug. I mean, that's a really, really good backup point guard option to have behind Tanchelle.
She's aggressive.
She's
to
aggressive.
The lane every
she's
play.
Tough. Her energy, she's got a lot of juice to her. I mean, the kid really plays extremely hard, and we noticed that the first day she came back to practice about a week ago. We're like, man, we were just different when she's on our in our gym practicing. I mean, she just takes it to a whole nother level. At the end of that game, I put Tanchelle and Kelsey in together, and I put Knox at 2 because those are 2 real active, athletic kids that really give us some good team speed. And we wanted to get Kelsey on the floor, but we also wanted Tanchelle on the floor because they were both doing some good things. So, Kelsey Knox, adding her to the mix is really big for our team.
This coming Saturday, you guys play Independence at Independence. Another road game, tough test, tough stretch coming up. Independence, Labette, and then Cowley to finish it all off here at home. But 2 games on the road, and then finally a home game. Going into this game at Independence, what are you looking to kind of develop for this rough stretch? I know we just touched on depth. What else is the team really trying to get out of this?
Well, you're right. This stretch is going to be difficult. You've got the 2 road games against 2 of the top tier teams, and then you come home against Cali. What we're hoping to see, in years past, our teams as we've gotten into conference play, I think we've gotten slowly better. I think every week you see an improvement. Every time we play a game, I think there's an improvement. We've gone down to Independence and had some success. We've won 2 of the last 3 down there and played extremely well. I think what we're looking for is our team to to just stay together and guard and rebound and understand they're going to make some runs. Just stay poised, be tough, and put 40 minutes on the floor and just stay together. That's the biggest thing when you go on the road in a tough environment. You've got to be tough, and that's what I'm looking for. I think that's probably the number one thing is just continue to be tough mentally and physically. This is fun. This is why you play college basketball, in my opinion. This is to go to Independence and play a team of their caliber on their home floor in late January. You were in first place in the league. They're in second place in the league. To me, this is the funnest part of it. This is a lot more fun to me than playing on November 2nd against somebody that maybe isn't as good as them. This is what it's all about. So I think the kids are excited. We'll be ready. We'll have a plan. We'll go down there and see what happens.
I know that your practices are highly detail-orientated, and I'm pretty sure I've been to your practice, you guys practice situational basketball, last 2 minutes of a game, fouling situation, so on and so forth. But you guys haven't had to do that in a game, really, maybe one all season.
Yeah.
And like you said, that one went into overtime, a couple girls fouled out, you end up losing that game. But even that game you were in handled that situation well. Is there anything you tell your team to kind of prepare them? Like, okay, we haven't had a close game in a while. Let's make sure we're still sharp on what we need to do.
Yeah, that's time and score stuff. And honestly, with the team we've got this year, it's such an experienced team. When you look at our four guards, 4 of our guards, they've all been there and done that. They've all played. If we go back to last year and count all the games that they were in where they had to execute time and score situations, they're experienced. You talk about Mary Pat and Amy and Tanshell and Mish, they've been there. And Kylie has too, and then you add the transfers, Polly and Bree to the mix. This is the most experienced team we've ever had. It's the most experienced team we will ever have here. You talk about 5 returning sophomores that played a ton, two transfers that played at the Division I level last year. I'd say about on a weekly basis we need to touch base with that time and score situation. But for the most part, our kids know what they're doing. They're going to execute. And here's the thing: we've been pretty good in those close games here over the years, and I just think part of it is I don't think our kids get nervous. I don't think they get flustered. I don't think they get phased. And I think part of that is that it's pretty darn intense. First semester, and we put a whole lot of stress on them in practice all the time, from about October 1st until about Christmas time, and in an effort to build toughness and build poise and build a togetherness and an ability to fight through adversity, and I think we've had success in those close games. I think because of that, and I think hopefully we continue to do that. But that's a good question. I think we haven't been in any close games. There was some time and score situations in Hutch that we handled pretty good, but then there was a couple situations we didn't handle good. And a lot of that, I think we learned some lessons there. But the best way to learn how to win those close games and the best way to handle those time and score situations, I think you can simulate it a little bit in practice, but it ain't the same. It's not the same at all. The pressure's not the same. So just being in some of those tight games is how you do it. And then the number one thing is have good players and have a system in place. And you don't do anything that differently the last 2 minutes. You got to execute your system and make plays.
One thing I want to kind of touch on just in general about the team is I noticed a lot of teams, they kind of react to how you guys play basketball. You score a lot of points, put a lot of shots up into air, pressure defense. When you see another team trying to guard you or, phase your team, like we saw last game, we saw a trap, we saw a zone. You guys work so well against those things. Coming up, you're going to see more of that. How does it change your offensive philosophy? Like you say, we just run our sets. But at the end of the games, a lot of teams are throwing different stuff at you. Mm-hmm. Is there any way that you kind of switch up coming down the stretch due to fatigue, due to just added pressure? It's going to get really tight. You guys are number one. There's a bullseye on you all the time. Mm-hmm. Is there anything that you switch up coaching-wise? Then I know you don't like to. You tell me all the time, we do what we do.
Yeah.
But is there anything that you'll switch up kind of going down the road, figuring teams are trying to play you guys a little differently? They have film. You're coming up on playing each team twice now, almost.
We have stuff that we run against everything. I've got stuff, I've got a little card that's got a long list. It's a little laminated card that I keep with me. It's in my wallet. it's got everything we have offensively. So we've got things we can run, a lot of stuff we can run against man. But we have a lot of stuff we can run against zone, and certain things work good against a 2-3 zone. Certain things work good against a 3-2 and 1-3-1. So we have stuff for every situation you could throw at us. I mean, everything. If you're trapping us, if you're pressing us, what kind of press it is, what kind of trap it is. If you're zoning us, what kind of zone. So we have stuff that we know how to run and we know how to execute against everything that you could throw at us. So from that standpoint, that we don't really change a lot. And our kids, they know how to use our system, they know how to use our stuff, and they're good players, and that's the most important thing. I mean, we could have all this stuff if we had bad players, none of it would work. We wouldn't
can't
score.
Execute it.
Yeah, it wouldn't work. But to answer your question, it's a good question. We do add some stuff as we go. The second time around through the league, we've got a couple things we'll add. We've got a couple things in right now that we won't run until second time through. So yeah, there are some adjustments that get made, but ultimately, it's kind of like football, in my opinion. Is you're going to know what we're running, we're going to know what you're running, and we're going to see who can execute better. There's not a lot of secrets. There's not going to be a lot of surprises. Everybody knows everybody. There's familiarity, and that's why I always tell people the conference games are always so tough. And it seems like we're getting guarded really well. It's not that much different than any other game. There's familiarity. They know us. We know them. So it's always going to be a little more of a grind when you get in the conference at every level. But we do have a couple things up our sleeve, a couple things we hold off on.
That's what made last game so impressive. I mean, conference game, you guys scored 90, hold them to 40 points as a team. That's impressive with conference play, figuring they know what's coming. They obviously game plan for you, came out with the trap, trying to put pressure on the guards to get the ball up court. Your team didn't blink, got the ball up court, made them run in open transition. They fell into your game, and the turnovers came. So that's what's so impressive about the team. They're ready for every situation. I don't see you burning a ton of timeouts down there to kind of get them. As soon as the defense switches, they're ready for it. You run the next play. It's very impressive. So before we get out of here, we talked about this 3-game stretch. After this 3-game stretch, the conference starts to repeat. What are your goals, no matter how this 3-game stretch goes for you guys? What is your goal in the next 3 weeks? Obviously, after the next 3 weeks, conference championship, we're getting ready for the tournament, see where we can get. The next 3 weeks, it seems there's going to be that repetition. It's going to be teams that you kind of beat handedly in the first couple of games. What is your goal for the next 3 weeks? How do you keep your team motivated?
Well, it's not hard to keep them motivated when you're what would be hard is if we didn't have a very good record and we weren't playing for anything. I think that's always a challenge. Coaches that have to coach their team in February when their team isn't playing for anything. Yeah. We're going to have a lot at stake down the stretch here, whether it's for a league title or for positioning in the upper half of the league. We don't know where we're going to be right now, but we're going to be playing for something in February, and that's what you always want to do. So motivation is not going to be an issue, and this is the players' favorite time of year. Our practices aren't really very long. We're playing a ton of games. There's not a lot of time for us to really break them down. Our team's already been broke down. We've already kind of grinded them out, and what we kind of have right now is what we have.
Yeah.
This isn't, they know that. They know this is the time of year. Coach Conrad doesn't get soft, but Coach Conrad is a little more focused on our opponents, and there's just less time for me to pick at our kids, and they like this time.
I'm
of
sure
year.
If I asked any of the girls on your team if you got soft, that wouldn't be the word.
But I think they know this is the time of year where we scale back, and it's about execution. It's about fine tuning. So motivation's never a problem this time of year because the kids love it. I mean, They love this time of year. We're playing a lot of games, and what I'm looking for to answer that question is, this is a cliche and it sounds like coach speak, but it's just the truth. We just got to improve. We got to take forward steps, even if they're tiny. Every single day, we've just got to take a little step forward. Whether that be in an hour and a half practice, whether that be on game day, whether it be on a film session. What we're trying to do right now is we're trying to become perfect. Now I know we're not going to be perfect, but what we're trying to do is we're eliminating. We find all the mistakes we make in a game. And then we look at it on film the next day, and we try to eliminate those mistakes so that every time we play, we're making fewer mistakes. And what happens is If you start making fewer mistakes every time out, you start getting down the road a little bit, and you start getting to where you're not making many mistakes. Yeah. And you're playing mistake-free basketball with a bunch of kids that can play like our kids can play. That's when you start becoming very, very dangerous.
Oh, yeah, definitely noticed that. I mean, that's the main game. Your team is defense, and the other team seem to make so many mistakes against your defense. The more you limit making your mistakes yourself, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see your team play down the stretch because you're beating teams by 50 points now, scoring 90 points. It's scary to think you guys can eliminate a lot of mistakes still and get better. I can't wait to see that. Thanks for coming by today for the show. Thank you guys for joining us. This is another edition of Kel and Coach. I turn my hat around before we go because this weekend my New York Giants were playing. Had to wear my New York Giants hat here in studio. So everyone out there, root for my Giants. I'll be writing my column this week. Thanks, Coach. Can't wait to have you in next week. Make sure you guys come out to the games and support the team. No home games next week, but the week after that, we will be back. Make sure you guys come out. It's a great game, great atmosphere. Everyone's having fun. The team plays great. So we'd like to thank you. For right now, we're done. Later.